soften your gaze towards the earth or completely close your eyes. Taking this moment to let go of any prior thoughts, worries. You're not here, not now. In this conscious decision, we decide to be right here. So begin to notice your body. The sit bones as they press down into the earth. A long spine as it lifts you higher, all the way up through the crown of the head. As everything in between begins to relax. The jaw, the shoulders, all the way to the fingertips soften. It's here that we can begin to observe the breath. You don't have to change it, just notice it. The gentle rise and fall of the belly and the heart. Even the slight sounds and sensations of your breath. You might notice it's cooler going in and warmer coming out. This is your body actively using energy. So when it feels right for you, begin to lengthen your breath. Longer, fuller inhales inflate the belly just like a balloon. And smooth, slow exhales draw the belly button back towards the spine. So we are actively creating more space, taking up as much room as possible. And then condensing upon the body, drawing everything back together as we let go of what no longer serves us. Making our breaths a little longer, a little fuller. And when you're ready, bow your chin towards your chest. You can always keep the eyes closed to remain more inwardly focused, or begin to slowly open your eyes, noticing your body, the space, the details that the eyes pick up. We're going to place our hands on our knees. On your inhale, gently lift the heart, the chin, the chest for seated cow. And exhaling to gently round the spine, vertebra by vertebra for seated cat. We're going to take a few rounds here, so follow your breath, your pace, waking up the spine. Two more. This time, inhale, reach the right arm up to the sky. Maybe your gaze lifts with it. And then we'll twist to the right, ever so gently. That left hand as a counterweight. Remember, we're not forcing ourselves deeper. We're breathing into where we're at. You can always roll the wrist, even drop the right hand behind the head if that feels good. Take 2 more breaths to the belly. Inhale, right arm reaches up. And exhale to sweep it across the chest. Maybe the left hand takes hold or the elbow hooks beneath. We're going to drop both shoulders and maybe look over the right shoulder, feeling into that space. Remember, if you get somewhere and it doesn't feel right, you have the right to change your mind. Let's take 3 more. Last one. As we inhale, return the head to center and release the arms along your sides. We're going to take a moment to change the position of our feet, opposite foot ahead or on top, just to bring a little bit of balance into our hips and our knees. Once you refine this position, bring your hands back to your knees. This time, inhale to round the spine, so we're breathing into the back body. And exhale to lift the heart and the chin, shoulder blades draw towards each other. A couple more, inhale to round. And exhale, lift the heart. Even allowing a soft smile to grace your face. You're alive. 2 more. This time, as we lift the heart, reach the left arm up to the sky. And then gently twist to the left. That right hand on the knees, our counterweight. Maybe a roll of the left wrist, even dropping the hand behind the head. Again, an opportunity to breathe into the belly, to take up more space. Last one. Inhale, left arm up to the sky. Exhale, sweep it across the chest. Right hand takes hold or the elbow hooks beneath. Dropping the shoulders. Let's bring the chin and the gaze over the left shoulder this time. Noticing how your body feels as we breathe into new space. Two more breaths. On your next inhale, return the head to center, and we'll release the arms along our sides. We're just going to find a nice side stretch here. So on your inhale, left arm and gaze up. And then begin leaning to the right, maybe just an inch at first. Keeping both sit bones on the earth, maybe looking up to those floating fingers. And if you haven't already, rotate the left palm to face towards the earth. Notice if that changes anything. Two more breaths. Inhale, rise up to center, and release the arm. We'll do the other side. Inhale, right arm and gaze up. And that gentle lean to the left. Just noticing new length, hip to fingertip. Even imagining our breath solely filling the right lung. 2 more. Inhaling head and arm up to center, and we'll release the right arm to the earth. Let's bring one hand to our hearts and the other to our bellies. Maybe finding again a soft gaze on the earth or completely closing the eyes. We'll close this short practice with a breathing exercise. It's going to be a ratio breath. An inhale count of 4. We'll hold at the top for 5. And then our exhale, a count of 6. We'll do that 5 times. So take a nice big breath in. And a full breath out. Ready? Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Last one. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take a big breath in. And a big breath out. The hands come together at the heart as we bow our chins to our chests. The light within me honors and recognizes the light within both of you. Namaste. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was incredible.
A short little breath. Sometimes that's all it takes.
So, do you mind telling me what yoga is?
Oh, well, there's a lot of definitions to yoga. But when we're talking about the traditional definition, it comes from a Sanskrit word meaning to yoke or to come together, a sense of connection. So every time that we pair breath with movement, every time that we connect our bodies and our minds, this is yoga, right? It doesn't necessarily have to mean that we're on a mat for it to be yoga, because there's so many definitions. And it really means different things to different people. For me, it's any time that you are completely present in the moment. That's yoga.
So, what is your experience with yoga like? What have you done?
So I started doing yoga when I was 6 years old. My mom, remind you, these are the 90s, right? So my mom brought home a VHS called EI Yoga. And I was 6 years old and I was obsessed with it. I would do it twice a day. There was Rasta the Rooster, loved him. How Now the Brown Cow. And of course the farmer was the yoga instructor. So I would just be on the floor mooing like a cow and like clucking like a rooster. And it really got me into the physical aspect of yoga. As I got older, I kind of did it off and on throughout high school and college, but it wasn't something that I was using anymore. It wasn't until I was in the Peace Corps in Thailand in 2015 that it started being more than just a physical practice. I was alone a lot. being in a new country and having limited language. It was a really hard time for me. They call the Peace Corps the hardest job you'll ever love, and it really was. But it brought me into the more meditative practices, into the breathing practices, and it brought me to a yoga teacher training in Thailand. And at the end of that, I came home and I started working here. And 6 years later, I own it. Yeah.
So what do you, like, what is your goal with this studio? Like, what do you want to do?
My goal and the mission of Evolve is to create a safe, authentic, and sustainable practice for everyone, despite income, despite level or experience. I want to create a safe space. And I know as I was growing up, I struggled with anxiety and depression, still do. But yoga has been the one golden key that has helped me move forward in my life. And I've seen it do great things in other people. So I wanted to create a safe space to grow, to evolve.
And how is Evolve doing that? Like, is there community outreach?
Oh, absolutely. So we are obviously doing free community yoga on the green once a month. We do that all throughout the summer. We have an open mic night. We do a community circle. There's constant new opportunities to reach out into our community and really let people know that you don't have to do a yoga class to be a yogi. We also offer a community outreach scholarship to people based on income. This is something that we offer twice a year, and my main goal again is to create this safe space despite what you have, to create a beautiful opportunity for someone who may not have that opportunity. We also offer special events. These are obviously more paid events, but all of our community outreach are free events.
So like, what kind of classes do you offer?
Typically, throughout the week, we offer a variety of classes, ranging from a basics class on Monday nights, which our practice that we just did was very similar to what we'd experience in a basics class. We offer flow style classes, which have that deeper connection to breath and movement. And we offer all the way up to a hardcore class, which I teach on Saturday mornings, which is very fast-paced and a lot of fun. But I scheduled everything so that there is something for everybody every day. And I hope that as we continue to grow, we'll be able to expand on that as well. We have our special events. I do new moon and full moon on the rooftop, which is the best. It's so fun. We'll also do different types of workshops. I have some new teachers coming in September, an introduction to Kundalini yoga, which is a whole nother topic we can get into, an introduction to Ayurveda, which is also another topic we could spend a lot of time in. But we're always offering more and more to let people know that there isn't just one type of yoga. There's really, it fits to what you need.
So like, you're talking about all these different kinds of yoga. So like, what are the different kinds?
That is a tough question. So there are a multitude of types of yoga, but the main ones that we focus on here would be Ashtanga, Vinyasa, a slow flow would be another, restorative yoga, and Yin. I can go into descriptions if you'd like.
Is it going to take?
It might take a while.
Well, can you explain Yin then?
Sure, yes. So Yin is a practice best done in the morning. Traditionally, all types of yoga are best done in the morning, the moment you wake up, because you're at your tightest. So the later we do it in the day, we might feel a little more flexible, but we might not get as many benefits from it. So in terms of Yin, Yin is done on a cold body. So before you really wake up and go for a run, we're not trying to do Yin. We hold the positions for between 3 to 5 minutes. They're not intense positions as if like you're not holding a warrior, but you're maybe even just folding forward like this for 5 minutes. It can become uncomfortable emotionally and physically because we all know this as we are humans, we get distracted. There's a multitude of things going on our to-do list today, or somebody was a jerk driving. There's so many things that the mind takes us to. So when we sit in stillness, the mind is going to go those places, but it's about noticing it. And with yin in particular, we're not only working with the discomfort of the mind, but it is discomfort of the body, particularly the joints and the ligaments. So it actually creates these tiny little micro tears within the ligaments that build back stronger connective tissue. So you're going to be able to run longer and feel better longer as well.
Wow. So like, what are some other benefits of like other types of yoga?
Well, the one I can speak to the most would be Ashtanga. Ashtanga was what I studied, and it is more than just the physical practice. The physical practice itself is considered a vinyasa, so it's a fast-paced flow. But Ashtanga itself means 8 limbs. So it is the 8-limb path of yoga. When we talk about the 8 limbs, Patanjali, who wrote the Yoga Sutras, this ancient text that gives us kind of guidelines and moral attributes to a yogi. So it starts from the outside and goes in as you go through the 8 limbs. So our first limb discusses community health. How can we be kind, truthful, non-violent? The thing about the Yoga Sutras is they have been translated to say non-violent. So what's the first thing you think of? Violence, right? So we can instead say peace, joy, love, compassion. These are all things that we have to practice towards each other so that as we come into self, we're doing the same thing for us. We're cleaning our bodies. We're eating good, healthy food. We're taking care of ourselves and our loved ones. As we go deeper into the 8 limbs, we get closer to self, as I stated. We talk about the breath, which is number 1, especially if you have anxiety. Ooh, it saved me on so many occasions. Then we move to the postures. The postures really only take up about 2% of the Yoga Sutras and 1 of the 8 limbs. So in a society where we think of yoga as purely physical, that's only the tip of the iceberg, right? So the asanas, or the positions, are a tool. It is a tool to get focused. And when we can become focused, then we can meditate. If we can meditate, then we can find that state of pure joy, or as they call it, enlightenment. Now, I always have to say this because there's this odd happening that to meditate, we're told that we have to quiet our minds. If we quieted our minds, that would be a problem, right? That would not be good. If we were monks in the Himalayas 1,000 years ago, it would be a lot easier because they're monks in the Himalayas. Like, there's not a whole lot going on, right? So when you are doing your chores or simply meditating for hours, it is a lot easier. But we have school, we have jobs, we have relationships. There are so many things that go on in our day-to-day lives that make it hard to focus. The breathing helps with the focus, the positions help with the focus. So as we get deeper into these 8 limbs, we get closer and closer to our purity, to a state of joy. My meditation teacher said that we can think of the sun as this pure joy. And often there are clouds that cover up the sun. And sometimes we forget that the sun even exists because, it's cloudy, it's rainy, it's snowy, it sucks, it's awful. And that's kind of like our minds. There is this point of contentment and joy that we can aim towards. There's always going to be clouds. There's always going to be distractions. So the more that we can know that we have this sun within us, that it's always there, and we can get closer to contentment, closer to joy. So that's really the basis of Ashtanga. Again, I can talk for a long time about these topics. So, but yeah, and then there's something just as simple as a slow flow would be kind of what we just did. An inhale to expand and an exhale to come back. It's so that we're opening up our lung span and creating more space.
So, between all of these different types of yoga, like how would you say people would find the best yoga for them?
I think that it is, the best way to do it is try it. But if you're a beginner, start with our basics class or a gentle flow, something that is going to be easy to follow and that you get time to readjust. I always offer at least 3 variations of postures so that you get to do the one that feels right for you. And then if you're a more experienced yogi, I mean, the world is open. You can do as many or as little as feels right for you.
So you were talking a lot about Ashtanga, or Ashtanga?
Ashtanga, yeah.
And do you have other instructors here involved that teach different types of yoga?
Yes, so we have yin instructors, restorative, we do particular classes on Sundays. We have Sandy who teaches an alignment class, which is great for people who are really looking to get that proper alignment in their yoga posture. Maybe they're doing the postures during classes and not really knowing if it's right. So that's a really great opportunity to build upon their practice. Another interesting class we have on Sundays with Jenny is a yoga sculpt class, and that actually uses weights. Yeah, so it's a fun combination class where you get to know a little bit more about your anatomy, a little bit more about your muscles, and then also move through a yoga sequence as well.
And how important would it be to do yoga in like a classroom setting as compared to just like at home?
Well, I think it really depends on how you feel. I know a lot of people have social anxiety and maybe aren't comfortable coming into a studio. I do offer virtual classes, so that's always an opportunity to kind of get to know us. But there's nothing like going to a yoga studio. There's nothing like it because when you are there, it is purposeful, it is intentful. Whereas if you're at home and you're on your laptop and the dog is on your mat, you know, it's fun, but it might not be as beneficial. When you come to a yoga class, you lay out your mat, there is intention right there to be present for the next 60 minutes. So I'm always going to say, come to a studio.
And then like, so you're talking about all these benefits, like what do you suggest is the best way like to do yoga so you can get these benefits?
Following the 8 limbs, really, of Ashtanga, you know, focusing on creating a balance in your life, doing good things for your community, doing good things for the earth, so that you are going to internalize that. It's like the ripple effect. You know, the more that we can do good, the more it radiates outwards. My meditation teacher also said that inner peace is world peace. It's not the other way around. So if we can find inner peace, then that radiates outward. All you have to do is breathe. I always go into coffee shops, and the first thing I notice is if people are breathing, and like 90% of them are not. The moment that you consciously come back to your breath, you're doing yoga. So the more that you are mindful of this, the more you're doing yoga. And then maybe the physical stuff will come after that, or the interest in it will come. I've noticed throughout my experience that my interest in specific types of yoga has changed. You know, I was strictly Ashtanga for a long time because it gave me a sense of power, empowerment, and control. As I've gotten a little bit older, I like things like restorative, where you get to lay down for an hour. Like, I really like that. You know, there are so many ways that we can get to know our bodies, and I really think that starting from the outside in is the way to do it. But coming to a class and learning just how to breathe can make a huge difference in your entire life.
So, this is going to be like a long question.
Okay.
How do you breathe? Like, what are some of your tips for being focused on your breathing?
Yeah, okay. So, let's think about a baby, right? Babies are great breathers. They are so good at it. And it's because they breathe from their bellies. When we get older, and this may be stress, this may be lifestyle, this may be a whole slew of things, but we stop belly breathing and we just keep it all up here. So we're only using about 50% of our lung capacity. If we breathe into our belly, the diaphragm, the muscle in between the abdomen and the upper section here, drops. Our internal organs expand outward, so it gives more space for our lungs. So even just focusing on expanding as you breathe in and compressing as you breathe out is going to give you benefits. I always tell people who suffer from insomnia to take 3 deep breaths. Even just that is going to calm the body down, maybe not completely to sleep, but that's why it's called a practice. We have to do it continuously and consciously in order to receive the benefits. Because you can't just call upon something that you haven't practiced and expect it to work. So the more that we deep belly breathe in any time, especially when you're feeling anxious or sad or angry, it gives us that moment to pause. When we have that moment to pause, we're a lot more likely to take another deep breath. There are a variety of breathing exercises, just like the one we did, a ratio breath. When we do our ratio breathing and we're holding at the top, this gives A, a really nice stretch to our lungs. B, it gives a little extra time for all of that oxygen to go into our cells. And C, it gives us this calming sensation, particularly with the longer exhale. So anytime you take a longer exhale, you are calming your body down. If you take a really long inhale and a short exhale, you're gonna create energy, you're gonna build it up. So there's a multitude of ways, but in every class that I teach, I always start with breathing because it helps us to get into that deeper state of consciousness. Whereas if I just said, okay, let's get going, you're gonna be like, what? A little caught off guard, you know? So creating that calmness within the body so that we can get in touch with our breath and move through it a little differently.
So obviously breathing correctly is very important to yoga, but like how important is doing postures like correctly, like in correct form? How important is that?
I think alignment is incredibly important, but I also have to mention that your alignment is not going to be the same as my alignment. We're different bodies. So you really have to play with it and explore how it feels on your body. That's why I always say if you get somewhere and it doesn't feel right, readjust. Because if it doesn't feel right for you, then you shouldn't be maybe mimicking what the teacher is doing. I always say that this is your tiny little universe. So whatever happens outside of that is maybe a guide, but it's not the end all be all. You have to listen to your body, and maybe one side is tighter than the other. That's okay, but maybe you spend a little more time on that tighter side. So the shorter answer is yes, alignment is very important, but it really depends on your body. We're not all going to look a specific way, you know, robot.
So I'm sitting on this little
handy dandy bolster.
Right, it's so great. And how important is like tools and stuff to the practice of yoga?
Absolutely. So this answer goes both ways. You do not need a mat. You do not need anything to practice yoga. But if you need more support, bolsters, they're the best. Blocks. I always have blocks. Just because they give you a little more stability or a little more height if you need it. We use yoga straps, sandbags. These are all different tools depending on the practice. So a typical class, I always tell everybody to grab a couple blocks and a blanket because we'll end up using those. But if you're in a yin class or a restorative class, even the basics, this bad boy is going to be there. You know, he is going to be that nice uplift, because as you can see just from sitting, when we have our tailbone lifted up and our knees begin to drop, there's more space in the hip flexor. So we're actually going to be able to sit longer without our legs falling asleep. And if your legs fall asleep, I mean, that's the worst, right? And you're just like, oh God, I can't move. So the one suggestion I make, I know this is off topic, but is that if your legs fall asleep, to just sit with it for like 5 seconds, because often the sensation will dissipate. But it's the moment that we start moving and we're like, oh my God, my leg, like I can't move, that becomes a problem. But when we sit on a bolster or even a blanket, depending on your flexibility, you're opening up the passageway for blood to flow, your legs aren't gonna fall asleep. So long answer, yes, tools are very important.
And then like, where can someone find tools and stuff like that to practice yoga?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the internet is a wild place. You can find Amazon, any place. I don't typically sell them in the studio, but I always make suggestions. Mandukas are great mats. This is my purple one right here. I highly recommend those, but you can find yoga blocks even at TJ Maxx. They're kind of becoming more popular usage, so I would say anywhere that you're gonna look for yoga clothing, you're gonna probably find yoga tools.
All right, and then just like kind of closing up, what are some of your favorite postures to do?
Oh my God. Okay, my favorite postures. I love pigeon pose. Do you want me to show you? Not at all. Okay, I'm not warmed up yet, so maybe let me start with my go-to favorite, which is boat pose. So boat pose is amazing because it's core strength, you're strengthening your spine, and it's also a balance. I always tell people there's multitudes of ways you can do it. You can have your toes tapped, you can bring your feet to a hover, you can lift them parallel. It's like an angle. You can lift them all the way up if you're feeling jazzy. There's lots of ways to do it. My other favorites, chaturanga, which is an ashtanga pose. So it's basically like a push-up, but this flow, which is called a vinyasa, this is an upward facing dog, and our lovely down dog is gonna be a nice flow that you'll typically see in most yoga classes. If flow is in the word or in the title, you're probably gonna see that sequence at different varieties of levels, of course. So pigeon pose, let me get in there. Okay, so the way that I typically go into pigeon pose is a nice lift of the leg if I don't hit the window, and then drawing the knee in towards the chest, dropping it towards the right wrist, and then inching the left leg behind us. So this position can be very difficult. We're looking for balance here. So you might have somebody who's really far off this side or pushing too far off this side. We really have to find that balance here. So creating a nice happy structure. The harder the position becomes, the more parallel the shin is to the top of the mat. The closer the heel is to the left hip, the easier the position becomes. So you really get to feel into your body here. You can press down to activate it, and I'll bring my hands to my heart, or you can make it restful and fold forward, which everybody tends to opt on because that's their favorites. And you know, just a nice little twist. Twists are amazing for the body. They're great for digestion. And balancing poses like tree pose, dancer pose. There's lots of fun balances that you can do once you feel comfortable with that. Even just a warrior 3, I'll show you that real quick. Warrior 3, I'll typically bring a knee up and then press it back and open the arms. So you're gazing directly beneath you, you've got that active long spine reaching back, and then maybe I'll drop to warrior 1 and reach up to the sky just like that. Yeah.
So those poses look so hard. So like like, what tips would you give people who are just starting and want to get to that level?
Absolutely. Let's start with pigeon pose because pigeon pose is the best. So in yoga, how do I say this? There are a multitude of postures. There's a book over there that says 2,100 asanas. There's a lot of them. But I would say a third of them are just mimicking another posture in a different way. So pigeon pose, for example, I can cross my ankle right on top and sit back. It's exactly the same stretch, just a little easier version. You can do it in another way standing, which makes it a lot harder. So like seated chair brings us back like that. So it's exactly the same posture in just a different way. So there's always going to be a variety of ways that you can get into a posture.
Right. And then, is there anything else you'd like to touch on before we close?
No, I'm just so thankful that you're here. Thank you both so much for practicing with me. And I just look forward to, building this community and creating this space for people to come and evolve and learn about themselves and each other.
Thank you so much. And
Thank
then just,
you.
I guess,
Thank you.
for the last question, because we're the youth agency,
Yes.
what advice do you have for young people who want to participate in yoga or who just don't understand?
Yeah, I would suggest just giving it a try, really. Whether it's on YouTube or coming to a class, if you're interested in something, why not do it, right? There's always going to be questions, but the more that you get to your mat or dive into your breath, those answers will come.
Thank you.
Thank you.